angels, it's Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so beyond grateful that you are here, and I really do hope, as always, that you are having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. I just have to say it before we get into this video that I am completely shocked at not only the fact that I had shared the initial experience at the forefront of this video, but that I'm sitting here once again discussing all that is said experience and all of the eerie, unexplainable things surrounding it. Basically, if you're new here, I recently posted a video sharing one of my terrifying experiences that I absolutely wholeheartedly believed I would never share, primarily because at the center and forefront of the experience was my lack of sleep. I'd went an entire night without any sleep whatsoever, which was already following a couple of days where my sleep hadn't been the greatest. And I had a full-on experience here in my condo, completely sober, other than the lack of sleep, obviously. Everything else was totally normal. That was so unbelievable and absolutely terrifying. Essentially, I completely hallucinated. It was really, really unsettling, honestly. Now, I had thought that I was never going to share that story because, one, I am well aware of what lack of sleep can do to a person, and while people have definitely went much longer periods without sleep with much less intense experiences, I'm somebody who really values my sleep and requires sleep. I'm not someone who functions well without sleep. And so I was well aware that this experience went pretty hand in hand with my poor sleep schedule and then therefore the lack of sleep. But I also knew how crazy this experience would sound and how the comment section could go with people being like, "You're absolutely nuts. I can't even believe that you sat down and filmed this video." And I was so pleasantly surprised with all of the comments from you guys. There were so many people who had said, "Girl, I get it. Lack of sleep is no joke," who shared your experiences with lack of sleep, hallucinations, and the wild ride that is the life experience when running on no sleep. But there were also a ton of comments saying, "Hey, hold on a second. What if this is something paranormal? This is really, really eerie." But what really intrigued me were the comments that kind of took both theories and combined them, saying, "Hey, wait a second. I totally acknowledge your lack of sleep and its role in all of this. But what if the lack of sleep led to a heightened spiritual paranormal experience?" And these comments really did intrigue me. I am somebody who, as you guys know, believes in the unbelievable. I believe in the paranormal. I grew up in a haunted house and I've had countless paranormal experiences. So that idea really is interesting to me, to think that, hey, right at the crack of dawn, first thing in the morning, you're having these experiences that you can't explain, but you saw them. And so I started reading through more of the comments, and that was when I realized that there was a theme of people who claimed to be very spiritually aware and connected to the other side, saying, "Hold on, I think that there actually is something more to this, and I think it could be from the land or areas surrounding your space." And that's where things got really, really interesting. Now, I have one comment pulled up here that I'm going to read, but just keep in mind that there was a good amount of comments kind of pointing in this same direction for me to take notice of them and think, hold on a second, there actually is a history of hauntings around this building. And I'll get into that in a moment, but I'll give you an example of the comment that I got. So this one says, "I never comment, but oh, I need to. I know how serious not sleeping is. It's definitely possible that you really did hallucinate, but I don't think you did. I've been seeing and talking with dead my whole life. I'm now 58. It's like I can hear it a lot more now. I've actually been looking into that on the web, and the things I've learned are pretty shocking. It all makes a lot more sense now. Anyway, my comment is because I keep hearing a man saying he wants to be heard. Feels like maybe it's something about the property or even a surrounding building. Could that make sense? Comment me back because I'm so sure I'm right. Love the video anyway. You're protected. Trust me. So I found this to be interesting, and I actually replied to the comment saying, hey, interesting you should mention that there could be a tie to some sort of surrounding building because there is a bit of a history with the buildings surrounding mine. And I'd mentioned in a couple of the comments like, hey, I kind of have an update for this, but I'm not sure if you guys would care to hear it. And everyone was like, just tell us. So here we are with said update. I can't remember how much of this I might have told you guys between Patreon and doing Patreon videos and Zoom, and then also my main channel here, and then my day-to-day life. I sometimes lose track of what I've already said since the move. But if you've heard it before, I'll tell you little bits again because they're all pretty important. But I will say that I'm going to be really, really cautious with specific details that I give just for the safety of where I'm located. Anyways, basically where I live is surrounded by a bunch of other buildings as well, a bunch of other condo buildings. And the really sad history of this space is that many, many years ago in the initial building process of said towers, there really was a tragedy that had taken place and a life that was lost during the construction of one of the buildings. And this really was a real tragedy for the area. It's a really heartbreaking story. But that was automatically something that was associated with the land and the buildings in this area. There were a number of people from surrounding buildings, specifically that building and the surrounding areas, that had said that they've had paranormal experiences living around there. Now, one particular experience was that allegedly a little girl and her mother living in a unit would frequently see what looked like the face of an individual outside their window, but they were so high up that that made absolutely no sense. It did, however, add to the craze of other people who would sometimes see things out of their windows too. Again, these are just stories passed around. There was one day specifically that Tyler and I had went over to the neighboring building because there had been some sort of an issue with a package being delivered to the wrong space. And so we were let into one of the neighboring buildings to go on the hunt to get our package. And when we walked into this one specific building, the energy in that building was very, very different, to put it nicely, than our building. It was just a really heavy feeling. We both had felt like the energy that we were feeling in the hallways of this building were very similar to an old hotel that you might visit, specifically old hotels in the past that we visited that were haunted. They had like this stuffy, heavy feeling of just a weighted presence, and there was just something about it that made you feel like you were being watched. Now, we both noted this, and keep in mind, we're just on a package hunt. The paranormal, spooky stuff is like the very last thing on our minds at this point in time. We just want to find our package. But when we left the building, both of us were like, wow, that has a really different energy than our building does. It's very different than ours. And so moving forward from that, we're in a couple of different, We're in a couple of different community groups for our building, neighboring buildings, and then our specific area in the city where people can talk about their experiences, kind of bring things to light, and just there's a sense of community. It's a place to get to know each other. And that was where I had first learned of the haunted elevators in said building. Now, I've never personally experienced this because, again, I've only been in that building one time when we were hunting down the package. But I will say that there was a number of people who started talking about these elevators and how scary the elevators are for residents and visitors alike. Keep in mind that while the building isn't a brand new build, it's not an old building by any means. Again, I'm not going to give too many details on when these buildings were built and whatnot, just to kind of keep the privacy of where I live. But it's not that old of a building that elevators should be running on minds of their own. But one day somebody posted in the group basically saying something along the lines of the elevator took their mother on a ride all up and down to all different floors, but it wouldn't open. And this ride was like over 20 minutes long, if I'm remembering correctly. And everyone was like, these elevators are getting out of control. It's really, really creepy. And that was when someone else was like, I'm pretty sure the elevators are haunted. Now, others came forward and had talked about how maintenance has had multiple people come in and check these elevators, and there's nothing wrong with them. They pass all the safety tests, they pass all the different other tests. I'm not an elevator mechanic myself, but from what I gathered, everything that can be checked on an elevator was checked, and the elevator should be running smoothly. But yet, at random times, almost in an eerie way, the elevator just travels almost as if it's like playing the elevator game on its own to various floors. Now, there are other things that have been noticed about this building as well. There was one day not too long after we moved in that we had seen a whole commotion outside. Obviously, we're paying attention to it, if I'm being entirely honest. I am a nice, nosy neighbor, and what I mean by this is if things are happening outside the windows, I love to look and see what's going on, but I don't watch in like a malicious way. I'm just curious. And so naturally, I was looking out the window, and that was when I realized that there was just an excess of police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, the whole thing. And they stayed for quite some time. And it wasn't too long after that we very sadly saw somebody being wheeled out and loaded into the back of a funeral car. I'm not entirely sure exactly what the car was. It wasn't a hearse. It was just like some sort of a van, but it was very obvious that the person had passed away and they were loading the body into this blacked out van-like vehicle. And that was really, really sad to see. Obviously, we have no idea what happened, but may they rest in peace. But that was the first of many, many, many visits to this building. Again, there are tons of buildings in the area, but that specific building often has ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars there. It's like there's something happening there often, like more often than not. It's really quite sad. Every single time we see it, I say a prayer and I just hope that everyone is doing okay. But that was when more words started flying around and conversations were happening where people were like, perhaps the building is really haunted. Again, right from the beginning of the construction of that building with the tragic, heartbreaking death, it was kind of set up with a certain energy around it from the beginning. And then over the years, there's been a lot of tragedy and heartbreaking things occurring there as well. Now, don't get me wrong. Beautiful building, beautiful community, nothing wrong with it in and of itself. It's just a very different energy. And again, rumor has it from certain people that there is some sort of haunting taking place there. Now, I haven't personally experienced that firsthand. My only experience was going in there and feeling that heaviness and then also seeing everything that happens around the building. But there was so many people talking about how the way the elevator moves is very creepy. It's not like a malfunctioning elevator. It takes them on a ride that feels almost intentional. I will say that I found it a little bit interesting that most of the stories do revolve around a male spirit that people are seeing. And again, when I had seen the individual coming into my apartment, it was 100% a man. Now, again, I do want to make it very, very clear in this video that I am well aware that lack of sleep was at the center of this experience, and I am by no means sitting here stating that what I experienced was 100% a paranormal experience. However, I can say that through my research into things like astral projection and dreamlike spaces that people enter, is it too far-fetched to imagine that the lack of sleep had maybe heightened my spiritual awareness or had thinned the veil between our world and another world, or perhaps the spirit world? To me, nothing's impossible and everything is possible. Again, though, you're talking to somebody who believes in the unbelievable. But there is a history in the surrounding areas beyond just said building. There's a history not too far from here revolving around vampires, and even more specifically around spirits and drownings. So there is a lot of paranormal activity not too far from where I'm sitting right now. And I mean, doing what I do and talking about what I do on a daily basis tends to attract some friends. As my Grams would say, it ensures that we are often visited. I will say with confidence that there has been no haunting for me. Oh my goodness, I'm hitting the mic. No haunting for me quite like the one in my last home. That was terrifying. I think when things started catching on fire, when I watched soil catch on fire for absolutely no reason and accidents were happening, that to me was a side of haunting that I just wouldn't wish on anybody at all. Since being here, all my paranormal experiences have been, I don't know, the word that comes to mind is cheeky and a lot lighter. But that day, I can't even tell you guys how terrifying that particular day was, how real it was to me. One of you had commented on that video actually, and you said, well, you know, Hailey, like hallucinations can't force a door to actually open. And I didn't even know how to answer that because you're right. And I physically, oh God, it doesn't sound any less crazy the more I tell it, was pushing on a door, fighting with whatever was trying to get in. I'm not even going to bring that back up again because it sounds nuts. But it was very, very real to me. And that to me is really scary. I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think. Again, I wasn't sure if I was going to make this a video of its own, but when I had commented back saying, hold on, there is a history. There's a history with the building that neighbors mine. But again, there's a history in the surrounding areas where there is a lot of spirit activity occurring. So is it too far-fetched? I mean, I would love to know what you guys think. I will tell you this, I've never wanted to say this out loud since hearing that experience over there because I never want to speak it into existence, but I am just so grateful that I don't live where the haunted elevator is. I got stuck in an elevator when I was younger and it has like traumatized me. I don't like feeling stuck anywhere. I was talking about this with Sarah the other day when we were reminiscing on getting locked inside of that haunted old house. And I was like, even though it was a whole house, I still felt claustrophobic because I was locked in it. I was stuck somewhere. And the idea of being trapped in an elevator while it proceeds to take you on a ride is really creepy to me, to be honest. Like, what would you guys do if you found yourself in that position? Definitely let me know. But that is basically my follow-up on that video. There were so many comments like this. I'm like, you know what? Let's sit down and let's film it. But I would love to know what you guys think. And that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed, but you do enjoy my content, I would absolutely love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. I am uploading a new video every single day, so if you do enjoy my content or you just want to see more of me, make sure you're subscribed or checking in as there will be a new video for you to enjoy. Also, give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until tomorrow, I love you. Bye, guys.